Welcome to the MD podcast with me, Martin Hartley. I'm the Managing Director of Emagine. We're a professional services consultancy specialising in the financial services sector.
I can't imagine, a day where you sort of wake up and you think that your job is not bringing new challenge. Personal progression is not just, obviously the career progression comes with that because you set objectives to yourself. I don't think that you learn if you don't get out of your comfort zone.
The Emagine podcast will offer interesting, insightful and frank discussions on the biggest issues facing directors and divisional leaders. The show aims to inspire and educate future leaders by telling the career stories of those of today. I can't wait for today's episode. I'm joined by Daniela Klasen-Martin, who's the CEO of Credit Suisse Fund Management in Luxembourg. Welcome to the show, Daniela. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good, excellent. So for those of you that have listened before, the format is the past, the present and the future. And we'll go into detail of Daniela's career to date and obviously the decisions that she made in order to become a CEO of Credit Suisse. So it's a great one. I'm looking forward to it. Daniela, kick us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Whereabouts are you from?
So I always say, if you look into my name, you normally would understand where I'm coming from, but it's not easy. So normally people lose at that game. So my name is Daniela KlasenMartin. Daniela is my first name, and some people think it's a German name, but no, it's actually my Italian part. So I'm half Italian, Daniela. Klasen is the name of my father, and that's a Swedish name. So indeed, I'm actually half Swedish, half Italian. And Martin is the name of my husband, who's French. So I'm born in South Italy, in a place called Puglia, Bari, which has become very popular in UK actually recently. And I stayed in Puglia until I was 18, 19 years old. So I've been doing my A-levels in Italy. And then I moved to Sweden, where I studied business administration. What more can I say? I'm married, as I said, to a Frenchman, and I have two daughters.
Ah, brilliant. Okay, nice. So obviously growing up in the south of Italy, were your parents in finance or in technology at all, in banking? How did that?
So not at all. My mother, she worked with archaeology. So she's an archaeologist working with, obviously in South Italy, quite a lot of work there. Myself, I've been going to some diggings, do you say so in
nice
English?
Yeah, that's cool.
And so very cool, and I think from there I actually like history very much. My father is an engineer, but he has been working in the factory fabric business, so nothing to do with finance.
So what took you down that path then? What were the earlier influences on your life that took you down a route into finance?
It's actually what took me there. First of all, I've always liked figures. That's true. So two passions, history and figures. And so I ended up the choice. I wanted to become an engineer actually, but I thought that perhaps I would be better off doing some studies that would also help me in traveling, because I wanted to travel a little bit more. And that's why I studied the business administration with international economics and with quite a lot of languages. So, I mean, obviously, when you study business administration, the step to finance is quite easy. But I can't say, that I really knew exactly that I wanted to go into finance. And my career path, has been dictated by a few decisions that I've been taking at the time when I had the opportunity. But definitely, I've been working. I started my career with, not immediately with finance. I started being a financial controller. That was in the automotive business. So nothing to do with financial services.
That was a Fiat, right?
Exactly. So I started my career very much also because of my language skills. Obviously, I speak Italian.
So I was going to say, back to your Italian roots there.
Exactly. That helped me quite a lot to find my first job, I must say. So combining the language skills with the obviously, well, at that time, not much experience, but, at least the studies. So that brought me to become financial controller for Fiat in Stockholm. That was my first job.
Yeah. And then you moved to France from there.
Exactly.
Right?
I moved to France, and why did I move to France? Stockholm is a wonderful city, but that's about the choices that you make in life, and there are personal choices that you make. At that time, I had met my husband, who's French, and as my French was a little bit better than his Swedish, it was easier for me to find a job with the same company actually in Stockholm, sorry, in Paris, and that's what I did. So hence why I moved to Paris. I forgot to mention that I did part of my studies in France as well, because it was international studies, and so I did my last year in a business school in France in Nantes. So I did speak fairly good French. So it was not easy, but obviously it was an advantage to know the language to find a job where I wanted to.
You'd make a good mediator for our old CEO and new CEO. The new CEO is Swedish, the old CEO is French. So you can you could play a straight down the middle with those two. It would be good fun. We'll save that for another day. So so obviously you have your financial controller aspect. You moved to France. Obviously you said there it's about decisions that you make. Obviously this one was more of a personal decision as well. Obviously in a language skill, which is great. But then you seem to propel quite quickly there. Your next role is head of finance at Schroders. So to go from being financial controller to head of finance, talk us through that process and what happened and what did you do?
So what happened? A couple of things. I've always tried to combine my personal, my professional personal objectives with my personal life. And at some point in time, I thought that maybe the automotive business wasn't really the easiest, path for a career, in particular for a woman, if I may say.
Yep.
Very, very much a male space. But at the same time, so I wanted to change and progress. I wanted to do something different. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, with my husband, we decided that we maybe wanted to move from Paris, big city. Yeah. If you want to have a family, maybe not the right place in terms of quality of life. And so we decided that the first one that would find an opportunity, the other one would move. And now, believe it or not, it was not me, it was my husband.
Okay.
But, I easily found, that's when I sort of was looking for a job in Luxembourg with my background. And I must say it was quite easy to find a job in Luxembourg at that time with the background I had. But then again, coming back to your question, did I know when I sort of took my studies that I will end up in Luxembourg working for finance, financial services? I would say no. So, decisions, I think for me, what has been always important to see what you want to do, where you want to go, have a good balance, with your personal life or your professional life, and look for opportunities, definitely.
Yes, some key takeaways there, isn't there? There's having a plan, but not being too structured, not too planned. Exactly. Therefore, you don't allow yourself to be whisked up in the magic of life.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the second part there is, keep an eye out for these opportunities. So always be open. So I like that. That's two really good pieces of advice there. So tell us a bit more about the role at Schroders. What were the challenges? How did you overcome them?
So I think a couple of things which are important, because I think they're also throughout my career, you can see that that I've been quite consistent in my challenges. So obviously very interesting, new challenge, new country, new English company, my first British company. Yep. My role was Schroders at that time in Luxembourg. So I started in 1997. It was really booming. It was really the period of the boom of the financial services. Schroders was a very small subsidiary, 15 people. I was number 15. And my role, it's over 200. I mean, it grew to over 200, and I think it's 300 now. But my role was to build the finance department. And I really liked that, because I'm the kind of person who likes that challenge of building something new.
Yeah.
So I built the finance department. I became the head. I was the head of finance. I was a member of the executive committee at that time. I've stayed nine years, and so I'm very proud of what I did. To the point that today you have still people that I hired at Schroders, and even, well, I don't know if I can say that, but yeah, even people are very senior actually. Were people that I hired at that time. So I'm quite proud of what I've built into that company.
Good. Yeah.
But then, again, as I said, I'm kind of person who likes to challenge. And when things are stable, when I feel that I've done as much as I could, and I cannot progress, that's where I start to sort of think, maybe I should look into something else. And at that time, I felt, that was, the right time to start looking for new opportunities. And again, generally what I do is that I start speaking to a few people, and then the opportunities, they come eventually. And then the opportunity came to move for a role of, actually my first role as CEO in 2006 for a very small company, completely unknown. I think many people thought I was completely crazy, Schroders, member of the executive committee, well established, good job, into something completely new, so a startup. So it was a challenge, of course, because it was a startup in a completely new business, but something which I certainly do not regret because it became extremely interesting. So I started for a company at the time, it was called TDO, the director's office. And it was one of the first companies, I would say, in Luxembourg, but also in Europe, looking into governance, risk management, independent directorship, and eventually third-party management companies to support funds. And that was dictated very much by the new regulations coming into funds that wanted that kind of substance separate from, portfolio managers, the risk management substance. So that's what I did. I think I learned a lot because I was working with very, very senior people in the industry who had started up this company. So I learned a lot. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And so there's an interesting point there that you mentioned, you'd realize that you'd taken Schroders as far as you can. There'll be a lot of people in that similar situation now that either A, don't want to let go, or B, are not quite sure that they're there yet. How did you define that I was there? And then B, how did you let go and move on?
Well, I simply started to get bored.
Classic.
I can't imagine, a day where you sort of wake up and you think that your job is not bringing new challenge. That's the way I am. But as you say, maybe other people wouldn't think about that. And I like taking risks. I like taking risks. I think a lot. I'm not somebody who takes risks just like that. But again, so yeah, I need to learn more. I always say to myself, that cannot be it. I need to progress, and but it's a personal progression. It's not just, obviously the career progression comes with that because you set objectives to yourself. But for me, yeah, it's sort of, I can't learn anything more. I want to learn more, and I want to get out of my comfort zone. I don't think that you learn if you don't get out of your comfort zone. So it's something that I do all the time. I use what I've learned, of course, because you use a basis, but I do like in some way to go out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I like that. I like that phrase as well. That cannot be it. I'm gonna borrow that one if that's okay.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the director's office then. So you're acting almost as a consultancy there, yeah?
Yeah, almost, yeah. So sort of supporting. So it's like supporting, it's a service provider supporting funds to structure in sort of in Luxembourg, in that case, providing independent directors and providing a shelter for the funds within a management company, which is something which was very new at that time for UCITS funds, for the weighted funds. And that comes Crest Bridge in, actually. I got
Just before we go to Crest Bridge,
Yeah.
my question here is, obviously you've gone from the head of a department and number 15, so quite, Schroders, large company, but small in Luxembourg, and you're the head of finance. Then you've gone to be the CEO, you've gone to run the whole gig. Yeah, it's a consultancy model. Yeah, it was a smaller organization, but what were the differences then from being a department head to running the entire company?
Enormous, actually, to be fairly honest. You're really in charge. So first time I was also a member of the board, and ended up also being a shareholder. So it's this huge. It's I can't say. I mean, really, you have the I guess when you are just head of finance, well, you focus just on finance. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're a CEO, you need to consider all the aspects of a company. First of all, because you need to deal with everything. You need to deal with even facilities, So you learn about that, but also about the funds, because, when you had the finance, that you focus on one part. When you are the CEO of a management company, you need to understand the whole value chain of a fund from A to Z, from, the product development down to distribution. And in between, you have the operation. So you need to understand that whole value chain. And that's what I learned, and that's what I liked. But also learned many things, business development. I've done a lot of business development. You can't imagine somebody who was head of finance doing business development, but yes, I did. Speaking at conferences, I got my first opportunities from my one of the founder of this company at first to be projected into, speaking at the conference.
Brilliant.
And that's something that I have enjoyed since. So yeah, you're fully in charge, I think, and you really need to have a good grasp of everything within the company, whether it is the operations of the company and the operations of the funds.
Excellent. Okay. Brilliant. So we're going to go straight into Crest Bridge then. Thank you for answering that.
Crest Bridge, spent 11 years with Crest Bridge before coming to Credit Suisse. So it was a big part of my career. Moved in 2010. And what was Crest Bridge? Again, another challenge. So fiduciary company based in Jersey with no operations in Luxembourg. So I established the operation in Luxembourg. But the real interesting thing with Crest Bridge, and that's really what I liked throughout all of that experience, was looking into the experience that I had gained with UCITS funds and transpose that into alternative funds, because we are speaking about the pre-AFM in 2010, just before the directive was coming into force. And so it was really about an idea, transposing the third-party Manco management model into from UCITS into ACE. And certainly we were one of the first. And so it was a very nice adventure. Again, I think there, what I liked is that I could use a lot of what I've been learning before, quite a lot. But there again, into completely new, I would say, type of product, the alternative funds. And so that was really the interesting part, absolutely.
And so what were the highs and lows of Crest Bridge? Did it work out how you expected to? 11 years at an organization is a good stint, right?
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely, it was a very interesting path. And I think what worked well is certainly the entrepreneurship, you can say so, vibe that you have in smaller groups, which has worked very well to develop. And again, obviously was tough because starting an operation from zero, from nothing, no clients, nothing, and then building to I think when I left it was about 10 billions of assets under management. It's a good achievement. But yeah, it's like anything. I mean, high and lows. I mean, in any work, in any operations, you have obviously the high there would be your first client for sure.
Yep.
It's really something I will never forget. The lows is when you lose on perhaps on a competitor, on a very nice project, or that's perhaps the lows that you can have in this kind of operations. And the team is really what I like doing, and that I've done throughout all of my careers with Schroders, with Director's Office, with Crest Bridge. That's what I'm doing now. But yeah, building the team is really what I like. And then obviously you always have high and lows, somebody leaving maybe, or yeah, not finding the right person. That happens. But I think honestly, I'm an optimistic person. I just remember the highs, and the lows are there to be overcome. That's it. Yeah. Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. On you mentioned an interesting point there about building teams and high performing teams. What's your approach?
So my approach is that I really want to work as a team. So I consider myself more as a coach and somebody who is capable of inspiring people, hopefully, so that they want to work with me, and that we can buy on the same idea. I mean, what is a good organization? For me, a good organization is an organization where you have an objective, but it's your common objective, not just the organization's objective. So if you have a team that buys into that objective because they can develop themselves, for me, that's a good team. So I definitely always consider that if I have an objective, I cannot do it alone. You can be the best person in the world, you definitely cannot be it alone. Nobody's perfect. And so for me, yeah, it's important to have talented people and all understanding what is their specific responsibility. I mean, you hire people for their expertise. If you hire a risk manager, obviously they need to be experts in risk, but we are all together into that journey. That's my vision of a team.
Nice. I really like that. So some key aspects that I drew out of that then were there needs to be a clear vision. You need to be able to inspire people, and you need to obviously get people on side to want to work with you and buy into that vision. Good team is really important. Obviously, you can't do it alone. And then twofold, clearly communicate to the team and then let them get on and do their job. You've hired SMEs to do that. So, give them the space to do that, obviously by providing that framework as you as the coach.
Of course, there's always a framework, but empowerment is actually very important in a team.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think there's some great fundamentals of what clearly identifies you as a good leader that have come out of that. So I think that'll be really, really inspiring for the listeners. So thank you. So then we go to Credit Suisse. So tell me about that decision-making process and what made you make the switch.
So again, I guess after 11 years with Crest Bridge, I thought was at a point where I needed another challenge. I had done as much as I could, to develop that company. And let's put it like that, I was a little bit more open to opportunities than I used to be in the past. And I had very specific objectives when I decided that I could be open to opportunities. And my objective was I want to go back to asset management, because I started with Schroders. I wanted to go back to asset management, and I wanted a challenge. So again, I couldn't see myself to go to a position where I simply needed to manage something which was already established. And Credit Suisse actually ticked all those boxes. What I liked is the people I met during the process, but also there again the challenge that I had, which is again a challenge of building a team, which is something that I've done previously because obviously we are in a growing mode here in Luxembourg, and but at the same time in a different environment. Yeah, a bigger group, a banking group, and a much bigger platform. Yeah, and so that is the challenge that I have taken on and that I have currently.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you've obviously set out your objectives before leaving, which is really smart. I mean, you would think normal process, but you'd be surprised at how many people do not go through that process before they A, decide to leave a job, or even then B, take a different job. So I think that's a real key learn for somebody there as well, is actually, you know, if you are considering moving, is to set out your specific objectives, understand what your criteria is, understand what you're looking for, and then obviously you can scorecard essentially the opportunities that come your way, and to ensure that you're going to be happy and make the right decision.
I've done a little bit of that, definitely. I normally do lists, you know, pros and cons. I go through everything.
Absolutely. Apart from the one in France, that was just husband and it won.
You know, as I said, you always need to live a little bit too.
Absolutely. So how's it going? How's the journey so far then at Credit Suisse? Obviously, you've mentioned a couple of the challenges there. What's the result so far?
I feel quite comfortable. You know, it's a very great journey, great team. As I said, building a team, great challenge, big challenge. But as I said, I like the challenge. So yeah, all good. Yeah. But you know, the journey just starting. So you know, maybe we should do this in 2-3 years time. I think that's normally the time that it takes, you know, when you are setting up a team or you know, looking into processes and developing something. So 2-3 years time, I think maybe we should speak again.
Absolutely, I'll hold you to that. And how do you looking at the future then? Obviously, your role now as CEO, managing director. How do you feel that the skill sets of a CEO now need to be different post the COVID era compared to previously?
That's a good question. I think there's something I learned a few years ago. I think more and more, I think a CEO really need to think about emotional intelligence. I quite like that.
Yeah, agree.
And I learned that because as a person, I'm actually quite an impatient person normally. And I learned about emotional intelligence. So I think more and more it is important in a post-COVID or, you know, era where people have changed a little bit. And so really to attract and keep people, you need to ensure that you can offer something more than a job and a salary, if you see what I mean. Yeah. That means understanding your team, understanding what they are looking for, and being flexible. So if we come back, you know, many people have had the opportunity to have flexible working times, working from home, teleworking. It is important, I think, for a modern, I say, I like that word, but yeah, the new CEO, the new, you know, the new companies, you know, to really adapt to that. I think it's so important, even as we are now dealing with millennials, definitely younger professionals who have possibly slightly different objectives than people in my age group used to have. I think we were a little bit less thinking about, you know, the balance of life, maybe a little bit less. And I think it is very much more now. So it is important actually to look into that. So emotional intelligence, understand the people you want to work with you, and offer something which they can value. And that's not only a work and a salary, it's much more than that.
Yeah, agreed. I think it comes back to one of your earlier answers as well. So when the question's about having your vision and having being clearly communicating with the team as well. So I think that all ties into that, which is great. What's your take on what future MDs need to do now in their career if they're, you know, divisional leaders, but they want to get to that MD CEO level? What's your take on what they need to be doing now, or decisions they need to be making in order to become successful in the new world?
I think you really need to focus. So if you have an objective, I think you need to have a plan. I mean, I'm a little bit like that. I have plans. I normally have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. Normally it's plan A. So you need to want it, you know, you need to be focused on your objective. I think you need to be very persistent, because you always will find some obstacles on your road. It's not easy. So you need to be very persistent and not to be led astray by your objective. And that requires a lot of self-consciousness of your abilities and how you can progress. So I would say persist, really. If you believe in something, persist. I would also say do not wait for others to give you what you want. You need to ask. You need to dare to ask to progress. It's very important. I would say that in particular to female, because there's a tendency for women to be a bit more shy and not ask. So dare to ask. I think you could choose a role model.
Yep.
Observe. There's somebody you like, the way they do things. Observe that person. And then adapt that to your own way of doing. Because we're all different. So it's not just copying somebody, take, observe, and then adapt. I think you need to be ready to change, to accept change. And because you do not learn from status quo, at least that's my view. And, go out of your comfort zone, as I said previously, and provoke your opportunities. Again, do not wait.
Yeah, no, I think they're all really good tips, which I really like and appreciate. There's a lot that I resonate with there, which was why I was smiling.
Okay, very good.
Cool. Okay, and then so my favorite part of the show now is the quick fire questions, right? So it's not planned.
Okay.
Clear the mind. Ready?
Good.
So what 3 pieces of advice would you give your younger self when you were starting out?
I said a little bit what I said before.
I know, yeah, sorry, yeah.
But what would be the most important one? Be yourself, honestly. I think be yourself, it's very important. Believe in yourself, believe in your capacities, and just go. I mean, don't be afraid. That would really be my advice. If something looks difficult, but you want to do it, just do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like it. And then 2 or 3 resources that you use for self-development. So it can be a podcast, book, publication.
So it's difficult, that one. I obviously do quite a lot of reading, but not a professional reading. I mean, I do a professional reading, of course, but I think it's good to clear your mind.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Just do something else. What I do is that when I need to focus and refocus, sometimes you need to stop. Because you think too much about something, you need to stop and rethink. So I play music, I play guitar.
Nice.
That's what I do. But it could be anything, doing some sports. I do sports as well. I like playing guitar. In terms of reading, there is a book that I read some time ago, I think already a couple of years ago, but I really like it. It's called Rebel Talent, Francesca Gino. It's really good. It's really good because Francesca has analyzed some successful people all over. It's not finance, it could be cooks, chefs, very talented chefs, and really sort of seeing how being a rebel, and that's again what I like, being a rebel doesn't mean that you are complete nuts and, destroy everything, but it means, going against the wave, being creative, again, challenging the status quo. Exactly. And that's very important, I think, in an organization if you want to innovate and you want to progress.
It's one of our mantras that we live by at Emagine, is to disrupt the status quo. Like we don't want to be an Accenture. We don't want to be the normal management consultancy. We want to do things differently. So
Rebel Talent, I think it's called. Rebel Talent. Yeah.
I'm going to read it. And the last one, you touched upon it earlier, but who's your role model and why?
Wow. Okay. I as I said, I can't say that I've had one role model in my career or life, so it could be different, but definitely there was one person that I've appreciated a lot. He was one of my bosses, the person who created, one of the persons started up the director's office. And I learned a lot. It was difficult, very difficult, because he was very demanding, but I learned a lot. So I can't put a name on, I mean, I could put a name on this person, but I prefer not. But it's as I said, for me, it's just no one person. I really look, observe, and then adapt. That's what I do.
Great stuff. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, Daniela. Thanks for joining me and sharing your thoughts. Yeah, I suppose if anyone's interested in picking your brains and reaching out to you, they can find you on LinkedIn. But thank you. Good luck with the challenge at CS.
Thank you.
We'll talk
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.